This is the Seahawks podcast, episode 487. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy Adam Emmert. Adam, it's been a few days now, coming off of the shutout of the Minnesota Vikings. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. 487 episodes into doing this show, and shutouts are never sweeter. I love it very much. And then I continue to hate the Atlanta Falcons with a passion of 1,000 burning suns. So this is a great week for me. I'm having a blast.
I'm having a blast, too. Having a blast along with some folks who are joining us live. I see William. I see Marlon in chat. Thanks for joining us live on a Wednesday night. And I want to talk about a couple things with regard to this Vikings game, because I think one of the things that people have been talking about coming out of it is what exactly happened with JSN. So I want to dive into that. Of course, I want to preview the matchup with the Atlanta Falcons. And Adam, I don't know if you've been seeing some of these power rankings and that sort of thing about where the Seahawks sit with regard to the rest of the NFL. But I find it intriguing at just where we end up ranking against a lot of the top NFL teams. So a lot to talk about this week.
Absolutely. I'll be interested to hear about the power rankings. It's actually something I haven't followed much this year, only because it feels like you could just do it in tiers and probably be better off, because, the top 10 teams are probably all pretty dang close, and then, the next 10 and next 10. So it'll be interesting to see how that all sifts out when these guys do their power rankings. And I'm sure the disrespect will be huge because Seattle.
No, I think that just a little bit of a preview, you may not be felt as though we are disrespected.
I love it.
And
okay.
I said that extremely weird, but yes. What I meant to say, no disrespect.
Yeah, you'll be excited about it, but it'll still suck, or it'll be great. I don't know. Whatever.
Coming out of this game against the Minnesota Vikings, yes, a 26-0 shutout. Shutouts are always fun. We don't get to talk about shutouts a whole lot. And so when they do happen and they're not, I think maybe people have this misconception about shutouts is that they should feel extraordinary because they happen so infrequently. But if you don't get the great offense that I guess times
coincides,
coincides with the defense, it doesn't feel right. And so there was a little bit of that with this game, especially through the first half. And I'm curious to see, maybe after you've had the chance to go back and watch the game a little bit, if you felt any differently about the offense now coming off the 26-0 win.
I didn't go back and watch all 22, just went back and watched a quick condensed version of it. And, kind of had the same feeling walking away from it. And it was just kind of like, offensively, it was meh. I mean, it was fine. They did what they needed to do. I did enjoy watching the run game get going. I do think that Ken Walker had a nice game, and it was fun to watch. I do think that the problems with the pass protection is probably more limited to that particular matchup than maybe something that's repeatable by a lot of other teams. But with that said, the offense went as Sam went, and Sam was okay. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He was there and, didn't screw up the game, which is kind of the point. And one of the things that we were really frustrated about in the Rams game was thinking, hey, this Rams team, they're really being stymied by our defense, and this is going to be a tight matchup. Just don't turn the ball over and you've got a chance. And seems to have learned his lesson, at least for this last week. And I think that's a sign of improvement to look at with Sam and be maybe a little more hopeful.
The thing that jumped out to me was watching the difference between the first half and the second half and the way they moved the ball coming out of halftime. And even in the passing game, moving the ball after halftime, it looked a lot better to me than it did in the first half. And part of that was you saw a lot of batted passes. You saw a lot of, whether it was blown protections or just allowing free rushers, because you saw the Vikings stack up the line. It seemed as though the offense didn't quite know if they were going to send a guy up through a gap, whether they were going to come off the edge. And that was the part that they struggled to find those protections for. And that was, as we get into some of the reasons why Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't have maybe the target share that we've seen previously, that had something to do with it because they were getting a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it does make it difficult to push the ball downfield and especially run your play action stuff that's a little longer developing. I'm sure that scared Kubiak out of maybe running a bit more of that because of the way that B-Flow runs his defense. And it is unique. They major in that sort of stacking the line of scrimmage, making you guess, pressure. That's something that they do probably better than anybody else in football. It's their entire philosophy. And there's just not a lot of other defenses that operate that way. In fact, I don't think there is one. And I can see why that unit ended up struggling throughout that game because they put you under a ton of pressure and they make you guess. It's difficult to call out your mic and know where to slide your protections and where your back should be picking up things and all of that when you have no clue who's coming or going every single snap.
Yeah, so that was something that they definitely struggled with. And I think it's similar to what we see with the Seahawks defense, but with Seattle, we just end up rushing 4 rather than blitzing extra guys on the defense. So because they could stack the line in similar ways. And I think with the difference of the Vikings defense is they just end up sending dudes. And yeah, if you don't have a good way to counteract those, and whether it was through, and we saw some screens, they started out with a quick shot to K9 early on. They attempted what I thought was a screen to JSN maybe at one point in the game, but it was so poorly blocked that it had no chance of going anywhere. And then I think there was a Barner screen that was successful, and that was the one where it was like, hey, we can do it. We have the ability.
Yeah, and that's been one of our offense's weaknesses ever since forever, it seems like. It doesn't matter who the OC is or the quarterback or the lineman or the head coach even. I don't know why the Seahawks struggle so hardly with screens because that is one of the tools in your toolbox that you can pull out when you're getting those sort of quick pressures and kind of take the starch out of that sort of thing. So a difficult thing to not necessarily have one of the big tools to be able to answer that. And we saw it. And to Marlon's point here with his comment, Sam had 2 seconds to throw due to blitz, and JSN was double covered a ton and needed a bit of time to get open. I definitely know that it does take a minute for these guys to run downfield. I'm curious to see, because you went back and you actually watched some of the All-22 and really focused in on the JSN stuff. And so I was very curious as to your takeaways as to what happened there.
Yeah, so in the first quarter, they had 9 passing plays. And a lot of them, it was Sam quickly going to his first read. Like the very first play of the game, again, was the design throw to K9. The next pass, it looked like one of the things that they were doing, I think specifically to take away JSN, was they were either, like if JSN were lined up in the slot, what they'd do is they would drop back Eric Wilson, and he would drop back quite deep. And so they'd have the linebacker dropping back to cover the slot. They'd have the safety over the top. And that's what they did. And so he was well covered on the first one. On the third play, it was a quick out to Cup because the defensive back dropped out, or he quickly covered up Jax. And so the read obviously was Cup on that quick throw. On the fourth throw, he would have been open over the middle, but Sam then he took an out to Barner, but then it was nearly picked off. But it was zone coverage. He maybe could have threaded it in there, but I think what looked like to be the more open throw was to Barner. And then you look at the next 3 or 4 plays, and it was immediate pressure or zone coverage where Sam was just choosing not to rip it in between the defenders. Again, he probably could have, but I think, again, it was probably more of that game plan to try to avoid those ones where if you're not quite sure, like keep it in your pocket type thing. Another play, too, where Jax would have been open, but he was the third read. And Sam, it looked like he was looking right at him. And then he decides to roll out and throw into triple covered Arroyo. So that one was probably the most frustrating. And I don't know if he just felt like he was getting set up potentially, because one of the other things that I noticed probably more as we go along here was that Harrison Smith, a lot of times, similar to what we saw in the Rams game, they had Harrison Smith kind of roving underneath in the middle to try and be that robber safety if they were going to try and target JSN over the middle of the field. So I thought it was that combination of Harrison Smith, Wilson at the linebacker spot that consistently was probably more than anything, and then that consistent pressure. And I think I counted, maybe 2 plays where they just had good one-on-one coverage by Byron Murphy on the Vikings corner, Byron Murphy. And other times where it was they were designed quick throws or just the right read by Sam.
Gotcha. So maybe a little bit of game plan, maybe in terms of don't take any unnecessary risks. Rosemer's going to make more mistakes than you are. We win this football game. A little bit of Brian Flores and his pressure style defense, a little bit of maybe Sam not seeing it once or twice, and then a little bit of just some decent coverage on a few plays. So it sounds like as you go through it, it wasn't necessarily a formula. It's just something that kind of happened to work out for a week. And I think that kind of tracks what my gut was saying, because nobody's been able to really come up with a plan for JSN and shut him down. This seemed like it was more, hey, let's defeat that offensive line, speed up Sam's clock, and by doing that, we'll take JSN out of the game maybe a little bit more.
And that's what it was. It was maybe a little bit. And I wonder how repeatable that's going to be for teams.
Yeah. And that's the part that I take away from watching this game. I just don't think it is. I just don't think that there's many teams that can play the way that they play. Now, we'll talk about the Falcons coming up here in a bit, but they do blitz a lot and they've had some success at it, but it's just a different animal altogether than compared to that personnel group. I mean, you think about the guys they have up front, whether that's Allen or Hargraves or Van Ginkel or Dallas Turner, or, those guys are really talented. And then you combine that with a good DC and you're going to make it tough on teams. But I think the offense and Sam did what they needed to get done in this game. Was it uninspiring? Yes. But look, I'm not looking to be inspired every single game. I'm looking for dubs.
Yeah.
And we got a win over a team that you should beat in that situation. And you did it fairly decisively, even if nobody really wants to talk about it and all they want to talk about is Vikings quarterbacks. It was a very dominant win by the Seahawks when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I just covered the first, 9 throws, and by then it was the end of the first quarter. The next 9 or 10 throws were throughout quarter number 2. And again, those were some of the ones where I mentioned where it was just good coverage by Murphy, a couple immediate pressures. Gosh, toward the end, they started doing the quick throws. And I think it was the 16th throw of the game where JSN was thrown to. Sam kind of forced it. He wasn't open there. The next 2 were batted passes. One of these plays, too, it was just the offense guessing wrong. They go max protect, and then the Vikings end up only sending 4. And so, and they had all 3 receivers lined up on the left side of the field, heading toward the goal line. So you had everybody dropping back. They were essentially all then, because they were in max protect, it ended up being a very poor matchup because everybody was downfield. Sam had time, but nobody to throw to. And if he would have, there are all kinds of defenders in the area. So that would have been maybe one of those areas where, hey, maybe you end up leaking out a back and taking an underneath shot. But
yeah, sometimes you just get got as a play caller. It happens. I mean, you hear Mike talk about it in his pressers all the time. I mean, he even talked about with the Reek interception, talking about, hey, I don't think I had us in a great call, and Reek made us right. And because you're guessing. It's a cat and mouse game. That's the entire thing. You're looking at tendencies. You're looking at the personnel that's on the field and trying to figure out what's most likely to come your way. And, they know that that you've been looking at all that stuff. And so it just turns into all that, and you kind of chase your tail a little bit. But at some point, you just have to trust your scheme, your philosophy, and just get after it. I think one of the encouraging things to take away offensively is kind of, as you mentioned, the offense looking so poor in the first half and then coming on in the second half a little bit and getting a little more consistent in that shows Kubiak was able to adjust to a scheme that you don't see all the time.
Well, and that's the adjustment part that I was very happy about. And that, again, as I was kind of charting why they didn't go to JSN, it was more in the first half where it was like, okay, you know, Sam, like he could have taken a chance there. He could have ripped it. Maybe he, you know, was second guessing himself. And that's why it was so different than when I went to the second half of the game. And again, at the start of the second half, we're up 13-0, and there's only 9 more throws left in the entire game, and so they didn't really need to do a whole lot of passing. But it was, you know, design check down. It was initial read to K9, a Barner screen again where Barner was the initial read, and he goes there. Then JSN, and that was his like first actual catch, because the earlier throws he was covered and then it got batted down. And then JSN gets the one explosive play of the entire game where he beats his guy and dips around the outside. So yeah, and then they got some pressure later on. But that was the look at it, and I see here the Comic Binge saying, afraid to listen to this later and hear Adam talk mess about Sam. I don't know if this was a game to be ultra critical on Sam, apart from the one play that I mentioned where he threw into Barner and it was well covered. He had a couple that were, you know, he put it in harm's way a little bit, but not as much as we've seen in the past. And while not one of his better statistic games, and he did have the fumble, but I don't know. To me, this was not a game to really be hard on Sam about.
No, this wasn't the Rams game. And that's the thing is when I come out and I bang on one of our players, and this happens to be the quarterback we're talking about at this point, when you totally crap the bed and, you know, commit QB malpractice in a game, you're going to get an F. You're going to get fried. I'm going to be upset about it. I'm going to say it sucked. When it's mediocre, maybe just slightly below average like it was this game, then okay, that's where it was at. And then when Sam's played excellent, I think we've come on here and we've both talked about when he's played very, very well. So I'd like to think that we're fair and objective in terms of what is actually happening on the field. Now, was I negative coming into this season regarding Sam Darnold, and have my fears been completely alleviated? No, absolutely not. But we've got the last third of the season here to where we get to see it, and we get to see him get into these big games and these big situations with a team around him and a coaching staff around him that is legit, and they're damn good. So it's a great situation for him to put some of the naysayers like myself to bed and move on with your career and be awesome, or you'll continue on a trajectory that you've shown in the past. So, well, we get to see, and I'm not sure that this was a game that I was looking at and being like, yeah, it's a big game because it's his old team and I want to see him light it up and all that. And if he had, great. But this is a 4-8 team or whatever the heck the Vikings were coming into that game, starting an undrafted free agent in complete turmoil with everybody wanting to fire KOC and all of that stuff. This isn't the game where I'm looking at and being like, this is a redemption game for him. And so whether it went good or bad, I mean, as long as you get the W, I'm not too concerned about it in this particular case.
It could have played out in a way that added some extra pressure again if in the second half, say the pick six doesn't happen and it's a tight game all the way through, and you know they're kicking field goals, and you know, maybe Minnesota does something to keep it close, and then it gets into that fourth quarter crunch time and they're really continuing to send the pressure, and he doesn't have those easy answers in the passing game like they kind of adjusted to. I think it could have changed things and maybe been a little bit more meaningful, but I saw what I needed to see.
Yeah, it was enough to where I'm not going to come on here and get frustrated about it. The one thing that I think is a little concerning is just some of the red zone struggles that the team has had the last 3 weeks or so. specifically the Rams game and then this game where you're settling for a lot of field goals. That's not going to fly when you start playing some better competition. So we'll see if they can get it sorted here going down the stretch. They have an excellent opportunity coming up this next week to kind of find a little bit more flow to
before you get there and
capture. And there's more to cover Vikings wise for sure.
Because, you brought up some of the coaching stuff and the red zone opportunities. And I kind of wanted to get your take on some of the coaching decisions in the game, because we touched on it a little bit after the game, but there really wasn't a ton throughout the first half. The first field goal in the second quarter, it was like a 4th and 15. So there's no way you're going to not take the points in that situation. I wanted to ask you, though, going back and looking at the clock management after that Brosmer sack under 2 minutes, because
that was weird.
That was something that Greg Olsen called out on the broadcast, and I thought that maybe they were just playing it to essentially run out the clock and maybe get into field goal range, but it did strike me as odd too.
Yeah, it was a weird series of events in which they didn't call timeouts at times when you're sitting here thinking like, all right, let's stop the clock here and give ourselves a little extra time to maybe punch it in at the end of the half and double up because the Seahawks were receiving the ball, and that's obviously an advantageous situation. Yeah, it did feel like they went very conservative there, and we're just more concerned with, all right, let's not give Minnesota another possession. If we can get down there and kick a field goal, great. If not, fine. We'll go into the locker room and be happy as a clam. And there's games where that would be infuriating. No doubt about it.
Right.
No doubt about it. But it's kind of one of those things where this is where stats and especially the advanced metrics and all that just can't quite capture football in terms of momentum and the way that teams are coming into games and the storylines and everything coming together. In this case, it was a team in disarray, and you had them continuing to be in disarray. And you got the sense that max this defense was going to give up to the Vikings with 7 points. And so at that point, what are we doing? Play your defensive game. And Mike McDonald being a defensive coach, that's where his head goes. And I had no problems with the conservative nature of the timeouts towards the end because of the game flow, the kicking a field goal on another 4th and short. I know, even Greg Olsen was having a hissy over that one. And, to me, just know the game that you're in. We've gotten way too greedy on these 4th downs as a league, I think.
I think if I were to be critical about it, I wasn't as much bothered about not taking a timeout after the Brosmer sack because, again, it was under 2 minutes. You didn't know necessarily where you were going to get the ball, but you had all 3 timeouts. And I think the main thing that Mike didn't want to do was find a way, especially getting the ball again after the half. He didn't want to end up giving the ball back to Minnesota for any reason. So then Shaheed, he returns the punt, though, and they get to the 45, so they're almost at midfield. Charbonnet then gets them across midfield, and it's at that point there where you cross midfield and you're into range, and you still have 3 timeouts.
Yeah, that was the thing. He had 3 of them, right? It's not like he just had 2. Yeah, that was the part that was bugging me. I was like, man, we have all 3. Let's go.
They didn't use their first timeout until 23 seconds left in the half. And then they ran pass plays that ended up being incomplete. And I was thinking, too, well, if you've got 23 seconds and you still have 2 timeouts and you're in field goal range, why don't we just run the ball and try and get a little bit closer? Why are we getting greedy by having to pass it? Like we're really only playing for a field goal in this situation, most likely anyway.
It's a great point. I think OCs as a whole, when you get under that 1 minute mark in a half, they really do just kind of throw out all the run plays and they just go to the pass sheet and call it a day. And I think that's probably what happened there a little bit, but it did all work out in the end. I don't think it was any sort of coaching one way or the other that I look at and go, yeah, that's going to be a problem. I think they were trying to play to the flow of this particular football game.
Well, and that's the other decision that I think you mentioned that Olsen seemed to have the biggest problem with, because it was that first possession, then coming out of the half where they actually had it in a position to where you would say this is in range to go for it. 4th and 1 at the 36. You're up 13-0. So you're definitely in go for it territory, but you had Jason Myers who already made it from 56. You're at 54 yards and you're up 13-0 with a chance to go to 16-0. That one where could you have gone either way? Were you definitely on the field goal? What'd you think?
I would say if I were to weight it, it was 60 kick at 40 go. If they would have gone, I wouldn't have been frustrated by it. But again, you kick the field goal and you go up 16. That's 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions for an offense that is completely struggling. Like, it was impossible. So just take the 3 points and you basically end the game at that point.
Yeah.
Effectively. So I know that's not a full 3 scores, but a lot of people look at it, I think, they kind of write in these 2-point conversions as if they're kicking an extra point in terms of how often. It's not. It's infinitely lower.
50-50.
No. So you get them in that position. It's much more difficult for that team to come back on you there. And it just puts a little bit more pressure on the Brosmer and company.
We've got Marlon in chat saying, I've been getting real worried about clock management after the Lambs game. And I think my concern would be higher if, based on the opponent, where they were in the game. But I would like to see them play their opponents like consistently how you would want to manage the clock. Again, and that's why I went back to, just if you're going to settle for a field goal, knowing that you're going to get the ball anyway, maybe run the ball in those situations. Use your timeouts.
Yeah, totally possible. But also, too, I've seen this team be aggressive in moments winding down towards the end of a half when they've needed to be, or when you feel like you need to put your foot on the gas pedal and really try to take things up a notch. And so I know that it's in there, and I've seen them succeed at that at times. So I do think that Mike does a good job thinking about situational football.
Yep. And Tapwater in chat saying that too, Coach Mike, not wanting to give the ball back in those 2-minute situations. No, you want to close out the half, potentially get points, and then knowing that you're going to get the ball back too at the start of the next half. So, another part that went into the Sam Darnold piece, just I thought that in the second half, I noticed that all of his sacks were in the first half. He didn't get sacked in the second half. So that, again, went into that idea that I think they had a solid plan, made good adjustments coming out of the half. We haven't talked about the defense.
No. I guess the last thing that I would say about Darnold and his performance is the tip passes thing. Those are high variance plays too. And I just don't think you're going to see that again in any other game throughout this entire season. You may see some where there's a few tip passes, but not like that. Like that also makes it look a little worse than maybe it was when it was all said.
And they were all together because it was on that right toward the end of the first half, quick 2-minute drive that it just felt like, 2 or 3 in a row practically.
Yeah. So, but that kind of puts the bow on offense for me. I do want to talk about the defense a little bit more because it's amazing. It makes me so happy. It brings so much joy to this 12's heart. Like, just the idea of Mike McDonald, this crew going out and saying, oh, this isn't a great offense. Fantastic. That means we can smother the life out of them even more, and I love that.
I like seeing when a defense does not play down to their opponent. And you had Ernest Jones have a whale of a game, earning Defensive Player of the Week honors. And it wasn't like he was the most standout guy on the team either, because I look up front and I saw what Leo Williams did, and I saw what DeMarcus Lawrence did. And DeMarcus Lawrence had an awfully good case at being Defensive Player of the Week too.
Should have been. He was the star of the game, in my opinion, and it's just kind of putting a cherry on top of his signing this offseason. By far, without question, of all the free agent moves that we did end up making, the Lawrence trade or the Lawrence signing was top of my list, because I think I even said when he was signed that I had visions of DeMarcus Ware when he came from the Cowboys over to the Broncos and got synced up with Von Miller and those boys, and what a difference that made for them. And look, Tank's lived up to the billing, and he's playing out of his mind, and he was a one-man wrecking crew out there. And the thing is that by playing next to somebody like Leo Williams, who's all world, he's the best defensive tackle in the game. Like, it's not even close. He is the best. Man, it makes it really easy for DeMarcus to go out there and play his top game, and he's been doing it. And I think we all wondered, to Tapwater here, in the comments, plenty of gas left in the tank. Speaking of Tank Lawrence, and we all kind of wondered a little bit, in plenty. He's juiced up. He's ready to go.
One of my favorite things about the play where he makes Brosmer, well, not necessarily that he made Brosmer throw the pick, but that led to the pick that he threw, is that Max tries to push him off with his arm.
Yeah.
And D-Law just says, "Oh, I'll just use that to drag you to the ground," then grabs his arm and starts going to the ground. And then that's where Brosmer panics and just throws the ball up in the air for EJ to run back to the house.
Absolutely. It's hilarious. I mean, we saw Brosmer at Trimble, and we saw his stature and everything. And obviously he's taller, faster, stronger, better shape than either of us will ever dream of being. But in terms of NFL, no, just stick out that
You're not just going to shrug off DeMarcus Lawrence with one arm.
Yeah, and then D-Law just be like, "Oh, why, thank you, I will take that, and I'm going to ruin your day." It was really fun.
You had that play. You had the one where, he gets beat in the backfield. Coach Mike called it his favorite play, where Aaron Jones just kind of swats him to the ground, and he ends up face planting essentially in the backfield. And doesn't give up on the play. No, he tracks down Aaron Jones, comes up from behind, and takes the ball out of his hands, puts it on the ground.
Major hustle. I mean, he got just chucked aside by Aaron Jones on kind of like the chippy block before Jones released, and, scooped himself back up off the ground and got after it and delivered that blow to Aaron Jones, which it looks like it hurt his shoulder too. I mean, it was vicious.
Yeah.
But just really cool, and a big-time hustle play, which really kind of highlights the hustle of this defense as a whole. And just, it's cool to see how many guys get to the ball once one dude gets there. There's always multiple hats there. There's everybody celebrating each other. The energy is high. They play fast, and that's some of the secret sauce to making a defense really go.
And I think it's helped because it's kind of built throughout the year, it's felt. It wasn't really to that extent early on. And I think that message of the ball finding energy, like Coach Mike's saying, like that's one of the things that I think that they've started to, it's a saying that I think they've started to really take on.
1,000%. And part of it too is not just the ball finds energy and Mike's messaging and all of that. These guys, every year is a new year. I know they were gelling as the season ended last year, and it's largely the same group, but you do have some additions, and there's a whole offseason in there. And we talk about it all the time. You just don't automatically build off that success. And so it takes some time each and every year to go out there and start to build the chemistry. And you see this defense being more comfortable with one another out there and knowing exactly where your teammates are going to be. So you know when you can shoot your shot and when you need to maybe just stay assignment sound because of what your teammates are likely seeing because you've been beside them for so long throughout the year. And it's a joy to watch it. It's just so much fun. I love this kind of football.
Charlie Malmberg in chat saying our two starting defensive tackles are combining for 14 sacks so far. When have two starting DTs had that type of production in the league or on the Seahawks? Gosh, I think for the Seahawks in the league, I know that it's probably been more recent, but man, if you have to go to the Seahawks and you're talking interior guys, you're probably talking like Joe Nash and Michael Sinclair and like that group of guys up the middle. Trying to think of when they've had that type of interior pressure. because it wasn't there with the LOB era. I mean, you did have Mike Bennett kind of lining up inside routinely.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah.
Not to where it was those consistent middle guys. But yeah, Marlon's saying Aaron Donald and any other defensive tackle for the Rams.
Right. Yeah. I was going to jokingly say like 1963, like Merlin Olsen and Deacon Jones or something. I don't even know if they played at the Rams at the same time or whatever, but like, yeah.
Well, I don't
it's
even
been
know
a minute.
if Joe Nash was that big of a sack guy, but
he wasn't Tecmo Bowl.
He wasn't. That was the dude you took in Tecmo Bowl.
Absolutely. He was awesome in Tecmo Bowl. You kind of do the little down and double button over and slide through and smack the quarterback anytime he was under center. It was awesome.
So, yeah, I'd be interested, though, to see when the end of the season comes along, like, are they able to get to 20 between the two of them? It's possible.
It's in range. It's absolutely in range. And I think they'll probably add to their total this upcoming week, too. But with that said, one of the guys I did want to mention that we didn't talk about in the postgame live, Brandon, was Eamon Wari. And it's not a big point or anything like that, but just he was locked up with JJ a couple times and was awesome. That's unbelievably impressive for a rook in just a guy who's maybe more of a safety type than a corner type. Now, was the PI or the personal foul, was that a stupid play? Yes, it was really stupid, but he'll learn from that. I have no doubt about that. He's not a guy that's out there just racking them up like DK did there for a while or whatever.
Well, and maybe catch the ball when it hits you in the hands next time, Nick.
He's a defender for a reason, man. That's all these dudes. Like, that's exactly how it is. It was impressive to see Ernest Jones pick off too, and he's picked off a few balls this year because linebacker is not necessarily known for hands either. But I just thought Eamon Wari played an impressive game, even though maybe the stats don't really show it and all of that. But he's quality,
the stats
man.
show it if you look at JJ, and he has what were his numbers? It was like maybe 2 catches.
2 catches for. I think he averaged 4 yards a catch. I think it's like 2 catches for 8 yards, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. Because one was like -4 and one was for like 12 or something.
It definitely wasn't a lot. No, 2 catches, 4 yards. But his long was 8. So
there it is.
he had one that went for 8, and then he had one that went for -4.
Right. Yeah, that's the one where Eamon Wari decided to body slam him and just to let him know what's up.
Right.
So
yeah, rough day for him. 6 targets, only 2 catches. And all those targets ended up going to Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson got majority of the workload there. So, and then not a lot even from Aaron Jones, who a guy that you do have to worry about out of the backfield, but he only had 22 yards on 4 catches. So,
yeah, did a great job rallying to the football. Something that you were going to see a lot, I would imagine, going into that game, just with rookie quarterback and all that. Give him a lot of quick check downs that he can get to leaking out of the backfield. But that's usually been kind of where the Mike McDonald defense can struggle a little bit, is with some of those late leakers and things of that nature. But they didn't this week, that's for sure. Playing downhill and kept Aaron Jones contained.
Well, we do want to see them keep it up as they move on to Atlanta. They're going on the road, taking on the Falcons. Charlie Malmberg in chat saying, Atlanta will be the last quote-unquote easy game on our schedule. What's the impact of fighting our way into the playoffs, do you think? Is this the last easy game on the schedule going up against the Falcons, Adam?
I'd say so. Because it's like Colts, Rams, Panthers, Niners after that?
Yeah, the Panthers are looking pretty tough since they beat
the
Rams.
Frisky. They're frisky. Yeah, good for the Canales. And thanks for the win against the Rams this last week. That was great.
I think I would describe this Falcons team even still a little bit frisky, because even though they are a 4-8 team, even though it appears that Seattle should dominate them in every aspect of the game, I look back and just in these last 5 games, they've played everybody close.
Yeah, who's everybody?
Well, New England Patriots, they lost by 1 point, 24-23.
Yeah, with their quarterback, who's now gone.
Sure. But, a tight game against one of the top teams in the AFC. another top team in the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts. They took to overtime, lost in overtime. Then they lost in overtime to the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
And then it was the Saints and the Jets. But, they did beat the Saints, which is what they should do. But it's that last game where they lose to the Jets, and now it makes it hard to take the Falcons seriously as an opponent. But I think that they have that potential with their defense. I think they could make it tough.
Okay, I couldn't see it vastly more differently. Like, it's just, look, you can take the Carolina, Indy, New England games. All right, those 3 games, all those don't count at this point. There's no more Penix. Penix be gone, and it's Kirk Cousins' time now, and he's got 2 starts. He gets a win over the New Orleans Saints, and they're god awful, and then they lose to the New York Football Jets last week in a god-awful game. Look, this team, you think about Minnesota coming into a week in disarray. That's nothing. That's hold my beer, watch this when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons. The fan base is out for blood. They can't stand Raheem Morris. They can't stand Zach Robinson.
Questions over the Falcons fan base. Like, how?
Well, all 5 of them, yeah.
But why are they so upset about how this season has gone necessarily? Like, is this not a Penix, like a team building year? I look at the Falcons and I look at their team and they have nobody for Penix to even throw to. Like, Drake London's their best dude at receiver, and he's been hurt these last few weeks. The team, and this is why I would bring more concern, because you say, well, Penix is out, so you throw those out. Bijan Robinson's still on this Falcons team.
Only thing worth talking about when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons, because I love Bijan Robinson. Extremely amazing talent. He could have himself a day, and it still wouldn't matter for the Falcons in this game. I'm excited to watch this defense match up against Bijan in the run game. But the problem for Bijan here is that right side of the offensive line is decimated. McGarry's out. Their right guard stinks. And the center's so-so. Left tackle, he's still a good player, but at the end of the day, it's tough for him up front, and then there's no threat to push the ball down the field. What, I'm supposed to worry about Kyle Pitts? Like, how many more years am I supposed to worry about Kyle Pitts someday figuring it out?
One of these days he's going to figure it out, Adam. He had a good game against the Jets.
Okay. I could care less. We have the personnel to match up with a guy who is physically gifted, but can't catch a cold on his best day. And then I think about, you talk about the Atlanta defense. First off, they're the 7th worst team in the league against the run. Like, we're going to run it right down their throat.
Yeah.
And then the corners aren't great. Look, AJ Terrell, he's league average.
Yeah.
And he's the best that they have. Safeties, I respect their safeties. They've got 2 good safeties in Bates and Watts. But who's the opposite corner? Oh, yeah, Mike Hughes. He is an active dumpster fire out there. And A.D. Mitchell just lit him up the entire game against the Jets. He's been awful for weeks. The pass rush has really fallen off because they've been really relying on rookies. I do like Diablo in the middle. He's a good tackling machine. But there's – between the scheme and the overall talent on this defense, in comparison to the defenses that we've seen in the last few weeks, I mean, I'd even put the Titans defense up close to where I would think about the Falcons defense. That's how piss poor this group has been underneath this leadership of Morris. And there's not a lot that scares me about this game in any way other than Bijan.
No, if we decide to run the football and run it up the middle, I think that we can make it tough on that Falcons defense. I do like Diablo, though. I read a story about his name because his first name is Divine, and you're like,
yeah.
Divine Diablo? Like, is that his actual name? It turns out it is his actual name because Diablo, Spanish for devil, they decided to counteract it by naming his first name Divine. And I thought that was a neat story. It
really balanced him out into a well-adjusted human, which is pretty sweet. But You talk about the interior in whether it's, I can never say his name, or Onyemata. Yeah, exactly. London. I mean, just none of these guys strike fear. Leonard Floyd is in the twilight of his career. Walker and Pierce have been okay on the edge as their rookies, and they've generated a little more pass rush this year than they've seen in, say, the last 20, because the pass rush has been god-awful in Atlanta for almost as long as anybody's listening to this podcast has been alive. This is not a good defensive unit. Their special teams is awful. It is the worst in the league. They stink with a capital stink. And the offense, all right, hand it to Bijan, and, best of luck. But if you want to put it in Kirk's hands, please do, with your beat-up offensive line and a guy who can't move, and because his Achilles was torn a couple seasons ago, can't get any mustard on the ball anymore, and try to get him to squeeze balls into tight windows against these DBs. This is going to be a bloodbath when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons offense versus our defense. This is going to look very similar to the Vikings game in a lot of ways, although Kirk has a little more experience. Obviously, he can get him in and out of plays a little better, and I think you'll see a few more completions that get him a few more first downs. But look, Kirk has been okay against the Saints and the Jets. Good luck when you face the number one defense in all of football. It's not going to go well.
Again, Bijan's my primary concern. I'm curious, though. Do you take the approach that you shut down Bijan at all costs and make somebody else beat you? Or do you just assume that he gets his and you focus on taking away the second best option for Atlanta?
I think with the offense the way it is there in Atlanta right now, with their offensive coordinator who's unimaginative at best, I mean, why settle for one? What? Just take it all away. Because I honestly think that the Seahawks have the scheme and the talent to do that to this group this week in Megatron's butthole. I think they'll be able to do it.
Another shutout incoming of the Falcons. It sounds like
they scored. I said 3 on What If when we record that this morning, so maybe I'll stick with that. They score 3.
I think they can score more than 3 points, but
maybe
10. Robinson's so good. He's so good that he has me coming up with scenarios like, would Atlanta be silly enough? If they decide to listen to their fan base and actually blow everything up, would you want to do a Christian McCaffrey style trade to, you probably even have to pay more than what the Niners paid for McCaffrey because Robinson hasn't been paid yet. So you would end up having to give up more.
And he's not as injury prone as McCaffrey.
No, and they gave up a second, a third, a fourth, and then a next year fifth, I think. I think it ended up being 4 picks for McCaffrey.
Yeah. Turns out to be worth it for him, which is annoying. But with that said, Bijan had 195 combined yards last week against the Jets, and they still lost to the Jets when you have T-Mobile starting for you.
Well, I think that speaks a lot to their offensive coordinator because it was a tie game. They had plenty of time left on the clock, and you have Bijan Robinson in your backfield who's having a whale of a game, and they go pass downfield. And they go 3 and out and then have to punt the ball back to the Jets, who then are in field goal range and close it out before the end of regulation.
Yeah. Zach Robinson stinks. And Raheem Morris is not a great head coach. These are the types of things you're going to get out of that sort of coaching staff in an organization that traditionally, like Atlanta has been for as long as I can remember, pretty much dysfunctional almost every single year. And that must start at the top. We all can agree that if the Lowe's owner actually owned the Atlanta Falcons, they'd be way better than they are with the Home Depot owner.
Got Marlon in chat saying their D-line is good. They're 3rd in sacks. Tapwater saying 2nd in blitzing also. And we know how well they are at picking up blitzes. The one difference that I would make is that majority of their pressure is coming off of the edge and not up the middle. And that's where our strength tends to be. So I have a little bit more confidence that we end up picking up blitzers better in this game than against the Vikings defense.
1,000% yes. The scheme isn't nearly as creative or dynamic for their defense. Look, I understand Floyd has had some sacks against us in years past. I understand that the Falcons, when they blitz, are closer to the higher end of the league in terms of sacks, if not number one. But when is that going to matter throughout the game? It probably won't matter much past the first quarter, because once you get them down 2 scores and they're trying to throw the ball all the time and Leo and company destroy the last little bit of Kirk Cousins' career, and you get the ball back, all you're going to be doing is handing the ball off, running the clock out. It could look very similar to the Vikings game in that respect. Only you'll probably have even more success running the football because they're dog water at stopping that.
We've underestimated Kirk in the past, though, and I do have some flashbacks to some bad games where Kirk has managed to beat us. But looking at the stat comparison on offense, the Seahawks, more explosive yards per play, 6-2, the Falcons 5.5, also near 0.5 point per play to 1/3 of a point per play for the Falcons. Again, we are the rush-heavy team, despite them having Bijan. They're probably closer to 50-50, and where Seattle is at than the rest of the league, and they are 55% pass plays, which, again, you start to see what we talked about last week, how the Vikings were up around 65 for no reason, and with a bad quarterback situation. Completion percentage, 68% for the Seahawks, 61% for the Falcons, and third down conversion rate, despite us feeling like maybe we aren't that great, we're up to about 40%, and the Falcons are at 33%.
Yeah, I don't know where that ranks, but it feels pretty good, the 39%. But seeing that the Seahawks are close to 40% on third down conversions, and that the Falcons are near 40% in giving up third downs, I would expect a little bit better third down day on Sunday. If that keeps you on the field and you keep running the rock and you just take the air out of the ball, there's zero chance for even somebody as great as Bijan to beat you single-handedly.
Seattle's right at the middle of the pack at 39%. The top team is the Green Bay Packers. They're at 49%. And top 5 would be Green Bay 49%, Chargers 48%, the Niners at 48%, Buffalo's at 44%, and Dallas is at 44%.
Okay. All right. So in range, Seahawks could continue to improve on that through the end of the season here and kind of get to that point.
Yeah, 5%. The difference between being top 10 and top half of the league is not a big difference.
Not a huge difference.
We've got Ryan 911 coming in, our live executive producer, with a $9.99 super chat saying, "Go Hawks, Ryan." And looking at the defensive stat comparison, you talked out the third down conversion rates, and the Seahawks, they have the edge in all of these. I did skip over the red zone scoring percentage for the Falcons. I do feel that 64% to 60% edge they have over us is likely due to Bijan in the red zone. But defensively, only giving up 4.6 yards per play to the Falcons, over 5 yards per play. 0.28 points per play to the Falcons, 0.36. Completion percentage is right. They're both at 63%, but we're slightly lower. And red zone scoring percentage, actually both teams at 55%.
Yeah. Pretty even there. And that makes sense when you can get down there. That doesn't mean that they're great in the red zone. They got to get there first.
Yeah.
And that could be a difficulty for this team. In fact, it will be. It's tough to take this franchise seriously ever, even when they're like quote unquote good. But when they're in a complete tailspin and total disarray, and there's reports too out there that Raheem Morris has completely lost the locker room at this point as well. So it's getting ugly there. It's hilarious. I love watching it. But you asked earlier, why would Falcons fans have an expectation of more and be disappointed with what they're getting here? And I don't know if you recall back to the offseason, but when people were talking about different divisions and stuff, it was between the Bucs and the Falcons. A lot of people were super high on the Falcons with, re-signing McGarry and bringing in, I guess they brought in Morris the year before, but Penix in his second year and Bijan and all the weapons. They've got Drake London and they've got Kyle Pitts, who's figured it out this year. And Fusion is right around the corner, not just 10 years away.
Kyle Pitts and Drake London, I feel like would be a fine number 2.
Yeah, I think so. But at the end of the day, I think that they had unrealistic expectations heaped upon them by the national media, who pumps this Falcons teams up every single year. And I don't understand it. They talk more about the stupid Falcons than they do the Seahawks, and we're an actual real good franchise rather than a poverty franchise like the Falcons. I hate that team. I can't stand their colors. I don't like the city. I hate their stadium. Their fans are so fair weather. It's unbelievable. Their owner looks like a villain from The Simpsons or something. Like, I can't stand them. Screw these guys.
I think it's your Falcons hatred falls right underneath the Dolphins, and then I think then maybe we get to the Rams and Niners.
Oh no, Rams are number 1 by far, without question.
Are they?
Niners are number 2. Yep. Oh, without question, Niners are number 2. But if you're talking about my irrational sports hate that I have, Dolphins would be 1. Falcons are probably number 2. Like, I don't know exactly where it comes from. I've never been able to stand that franchise.
Those ones just stand out to me because of the irrationality of it. But
for sure.
That's what makes
I'm not
fun.
saying. Yeah, exactly. It's sports hate. This is fun. It's tribalism. This is what we do. You get it out here.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to hearing your guys' predictions coming up on What If later this week, and what you guys have in store. And, what Phil's got cooked up for a theme. Can't wait to hear it.
Oh, yeah. He did a great job this week. As usual, we had a great time, Clinton and I, trying to answer the questions that we don't see ahead of time, which is always interesting. But, man, I'm getting crushed by Clinton in score predictions, so I went way off the board this week and predicted something wild because why not? If I'm getting screwed anyways, I might as well have some fun with it.
Might as well have fun doing it. All right. Let us get to the second half of the show.
All right, man.
All right, Adam, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as we get into the second half of the show is our Seahawks team. And I've got this pulled up here. It is the composite power rankings because, why should you take a look at one power rankings when you can just take all the power rankings, put them in together and create a composite and see, what everybody ends up thinking about all these teams. And as you look at this, you kind of see, we've got it up on screen, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. The Rams, number 1, a 7.1 composite score. I don't know what that means, but I see the Seahawks and Chiefs and Packers with the only teams that are above 5. And Packers, Chiefs at 5.3, Seahawks at 5.5. And you can kind of see, because they go in a gradient of dark green to lighter green, and you have a lot more dark green up at the top. And everyone consistently seems to have the Rams at number 1. And whether or not it's the Chiefs, Seahawks, or Packers, those are kind of the consensus number 2 teams.
This is really interesting as I'm looking at the categories here of how they compile this. So there's something called FPI. No clue what that is. I don't think anybody else does.
These are the different power ranking people. Because obviously you know who PFF is. And because they're the second to the right column, far right column.
I thought these were like stats, like Pool Genius
they're
was
not
like
stats.
a
No,
stat.
just
it was like, what? Is this some like, guy that like cleans pools in LA that like had the Rams at number 1 here?
Look, I don't know who FPI is either, but they apparently have a power ranking system, and they have us at 6th, so screw those guys.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things that I see in here, number 1, having Rams, Seahawks, 1, 2, however you want to put it, that's fine. I think they're probably the 2 best teams in football consistently right now. The Chiefs at 3? The Chiefs at 3.
They're
not even going to make the playoffs. No, they will not make the playoffs. They're not making the playoffs.
The potential still exists. Like
they have to run the table.
Not writing off.
I got to see 5 straight wins before I write them back in. How about that? So that's very interesting to me. The Broncos all the way down at 9. What are we doing? They having the Broncos at 9 and the Texans at 11 and the Ravens at 10 sandwiched in between there. Like, Ravens are awful this year. Lamar Jackson is not who he used to be. Like, he's fallen off a cliff and turned into a banana before the playoffs even started this year.
Well, this is a little bit too. I wanted to have this conversation because it's this chart that I think that there's a lot of rankings that are deferring to previous seasons because we look at teams like the Broncos and the Bears, who are all the way down at number 17 and who are leading the NFC. Like, they're in the number 1 position for the playoffs, but we don't know what to make of them because of some of their issues, some of their inconsistencies. I know that you're talking about the Broncos here, but they've had a lot of issues. Like, they've been really good at closing out games somehow, but
yeah,
it's also felt kind of lucky.
I mean, when you do it over and over again, does it become, reality or luck? And I think that's where we're at with the Broncos here. Like, New England and Bears fans, they should be up in arms about this. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, New England's competing for the number 1 seed. So are the Bears. Like,
New England below the
that
Texans is weird to me because while the Texans, I think, have one of the best defenses, like, you probably put them in top 5 defensively.
Yes.
And you kind of wonder if their offense can catch up here now late in the season to where they can make that playoff push. But yeah, to have them ahead of the Patriots is wild because the Patriots have a good defense too.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I mean, they lost Woody Marks, and so it's back to just Chubb, and he's just not the same player anymore. Yeah, this is an interesting way to rank football teams for this time of year because, if you're saying, we've got some questions and inconsistencies and all that, like, I'm with you. I get that, but we're 2/3 of the way into the season here. Like, you know who teams are for the most part. And I mean, out of all the rankings that I see here, I think Philly at like 8 probably makes the most sense to me, where you're like, there's a lot of talent there. I've seen him turn it on. I've seen him be up and down this year. They're not really running the ball great, but they do have a lot of dogs on that roster still. And I could see them, slipping in there, but a lot of these don't make a lot of sense.
The Packers at 4 makes some pretty good sense to me because I do think that they're of the teams that if I were to pick a team that I wanted to go up against the Rams in the playoffs, it would be the Green Bay Packers. Because you put Micah Parsons, line him up across from Matt Stafford. That I think that, and the way the Packers have been playing, they've lost to some like rando bad teams, but they're the team that plays well when they want to. Yeah.
No, and it's all there. The coaching staff is there. The players are there. They've got everything they need to be successful. And I could see Micah's really come on in the last few games as well. And kind of, I think, finding his groove there up in Green Bay. It got Gary on the other side too. And watching them breathe down Stafford's neck would be a good day for sure. But yeah, when it comes to the top 2 teams, obviously they got them ranked in the wrong position, but I would give some
we did lose to them by
people.
2 points. So, I mean, if you're going to make rankings, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well, one thing we want to make sure and get to, it is our executive producers. We've got DCH, we've got Ryan Peterson, and we've got Brian Shaw, and we've got Stephen Kirkpatrick coming in, Adam, with his $26 even donation. Appreciate that to Stephen.
Heck yeah, man. This has been an expensive season for Stephen so far.
No pennies this week, though. That was kind of cool. Normally, I'm used to seeing a number on the opposite side of the decimal point. Straight 26.
No, those zeros are beautiful. Yeah.
Very beautiful. Brandon David Barnett came in, gave us a raise. $3 going to $36 for the year. Maybe you heard us talking about how we like those annual donations. One other benefit to that, folks, is that it helps the show out more because if you pay annually versus the month to month, it's only one payment processed. So they don't take the transaction fees out every single month.
Absolutely. It's the more efficient way to get it done. No doubt about it.
Got Ryan Eddy, a new member out on YouTube. Welcome to the flock to Ryan.
Heck yeah, man. He's been in the comments a fair amount during some of our live shows.
Yeah. Also wanted to shout out Marvin, who sent us some 50th anniversary signs, and he's got a business here. It looks like Groundhog's 3D Graphics. And so, yeah, check that out. I'll hold up the QR code. I don't know if that comes across on the screen, but
there's a little bit of a glare on it. Tilt it up or down. There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Nope. Go back the other way.
This way. There we go.
Yeah.
Groundhog's
Go towards
3D
you a little bit.
Graphics.
Yeah.
All right. So QR code there, and what he sent you and me, Adam. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this because I haven't taken it out of the bubble wrap yet. But 50th anniversary. Seahawks sign here.
That's super dope.
He sent one of those to each of us, and they even have a letter. It says,
"Oh wow,
to Brandon and Adam. I hope this letter finds you well. My name is Marvin, and I'm writing to tell you today, as a longtime listener and massive fan of the podcast, I've been a Seahawks fan since the days of Jim Zorn and the AFC Championship game versus the Raiders in 1983. I've been following the show and a member of the Ring of Honor since 2018 and absolutely love the content you create. I especially appreciate your dedication and passion for the Seattle Seahawks. It truly comes through in every episode. To show my appreciation, I wanted to enclose a small token of thanks to 3D printed creations of the Seahawks 50th anniversary logo. I refined and printed these myself and hope they find a nice spot in the studio or wherever you enjoy a bit of Hawks flair. Thank you again for all the hours of entertainment and insightful discussion. Keep up the amazing work, and go Hawks. Best regards, Marvin from Riverdale, Utah."
Heck yeah, man. Well, thank you a ton, Marvin. Those are super cool. I can't wait to put that up in a new structure that I put up here this offseason because I gotta upgrade my podcast facilities here, and that will make a wonderful addition to that. And appreciate you sticking with us for a long time, and you seem like a loyal dude being with the Hawks since it sounds like about the inception. So yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been cool to have a lot of great feelings and good vibes about this team this year and passion and all that because the team is making it easy for us. That's been cool.
Yeah, remember when I said that I thought that I had something for you to give you that was at my house? It was those. They've been sitting here for, let's see, Marvin sent that on the 11th, so yeah, they were here. They've been here for a couple weeks, and I could have given them to you while you were here last time. I'll have to figure out another way to get it to you.
That's all good. I'm going to probably have to come up there and take one of my vehicles into my dad's shop so I can do some repairs. And it's better than sitting in the snow, so I'll come up your way.
All right. Well, be sure and remember to get that as we welcome in our overlord of the Pick'em League. We've got Evie coming in with her weekly message. Dear underlings, see what happens when you all pick the Seahawks? They win, and evidently with a shutout, which Dad assures me is rare and a big deal. Sucks to be a Viking, I guess. Well done to the biggest little flocker who won this week with 13 correct. Dad says that is even more impressive than a shutout with, in his words, some completely stupid-ass results this week. On the rage scale of happy to moving in with Adam in the woods, Adam, his flight lands on Friday. You can pick him up.
Fantastic. We'll be ready for you. Yeah.
Overall, G. Haley is still in the lead with 137 correct picks and one boring name. Wirehawks is one further back in second, and the top five is made up of Barry, the WC, Barry the WC, Love Is All We Need, and Oba's Daddy, all on 135. Obu's Daddy. Dad is one further back in sixth, where he often finishes just outside the prize places. Not that he's bitter, and not that I find that funny. Have an awesome week. Go Hawks. Love Evie. I just hope Hugh can stay in sixth place so he can get these little quips from Evie each and every week about how he is inadequately outside of the top five.
Absolutely. This is part of what we give as a show. Like, we give these little moments to different families out there to where, father-daughter can bond over some good chiding. So that's fun. I think he's kind of just locked in at that sixth spot. And if he does try to climb out of it, Brandon, I think it's time to just knock him back down.
Here's the thing. I'm not even looking to check the standings. So Evie might just be slotting him in at pick number 6 every week just so she can take a shot at him.
If that's true, that's even better.
Well, thanks to Evie, keeping track of our Pick'em League. Thanks to those of you who are a part of that each and every week. The winner is going to get a 50th anniversary coins. I got a stack of them here to mail out here for our weekly winners throughout the first few weeks here. So if you still want to get in and try and win a week as we close out the December, you can go to SeahawkersPodcast.com, click the Pick'em League, join the league. You don't have to be a part of it every single week. You can just take your shot 1 week at a time here on out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Think of it as like weekly fantasy.
There you go. All right. On to do better and better at life.
All right, Brandon. My do better this week is for all of us Americans, all of us, every single one of us.
All of us. We all need to do better?
Yeah, we do. And it's kind of all boils down to one thing that's kind of been sticking to my craw for, probably a good decade or so here. But one of the things that frustrates me the most about all of us as a society is our susceptibility to hustle culture. Like, everybody's got to be going hard and going fast and getting more and getting bigger houses and more cars and more stuff and success. And if you're not up at 4 a.m., you're a loser. And like, just if you don't spend 80 hours a week in the office, like you're a loser, and everything's got to be faster. And the thing is it's not just a feeling. There's actually evidence to back up just the way that we have sped up as a society. So researchers at MIT.
Hustle culture science.
Yeah. Here we go. So some researchers at MIT, they went and they looked at video footage from 3 different cities, Boston, Philadelphia, New York, and 2 different locations in New York. And they analyzed that video footage from 1978 to 80 and from 2008 to 2010, and then here just more recently. And each and every year, the pace at which people are moving to get to their next place has increased. Oh. And it's gone up almost 30% since like back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, we were having ourselves a day, just walking around, enjoying the trees, doing our thing, get to work our 40 hours, like a person, and then go home. But now everybody's got to go and speed up and get to the next place and hurry up to get to work and spend more time there and lose your grip on what reality is in real life. And I think everybody needs to take a deep breath, slow it down. Maybe this is just me living in the woods that has brought this up. But man, everybody just take a breath, slow it down. What's the hurry? Who are we in a race against? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So to everybody for speeding up the pace of things and making people like me feel uncomfortable all the time because, oh man, you don't go fast enough. Like I'm so sick of that crap. So to all of us collectively as Americans and hustle culture and all that, do better.
Man, you don't have to loop in all of us there. We're not all a part of hustle culture.
Dude, I'm just saying as a society.
I don't get there's up before 8 o'clock in the morning. Like you can exclude me from this.
Yeah, but there's enough people that get up at 3:30 and rub it in your nose to make up for that. Like, trust me, I've met every one of them.
I'm usually going to bed around then, so that's maybe that's my aspect of the hustle culture is that I end up staying up late.
Yeah, it's look.
Okay, the snail saying Adam is the dude in the fast lane doing 45. This is absolutely not true. As someone who has ridden with Adam on many road trips, Adam is the dude who gives the finger to the person who is a left lane camper, and I believe he's talked about this on the show that he is definitely anti left lane camper.
Yeah. Left lane is for passing, right lane is for driving. This is not complicated, people. It's as easy as it gets. Like, no, for me, it's straight lines and speed limits, If it's 70, I'm doing like 72.
There you go. A little hustle, but not enough to be part of hustle culture.
No, I just want to go the pace that we're allowed to. Like, everybody just simmer down a little bit. Who are we? I just want to know, who are we racing? Because I haven't found them yet.
My do better this week is for the Hall of Fame selection committee, Adam. For the second straight year, Marshawn Lynch is not among the lists of semifinalists. I'm also annoyed that Mike Holmgren off the list, but I think it's because that Bill Belichick's hogging the coaching category this year. So screw that guy. Get him into the Hall of Fame, I guess, so we can clear the way for our former Seahawks head coach. And while we do have at least one former Seahawk, arguably more than one, but we can talk about those. My main point is Marshawn Lynch needs to be on this list of Hall of Fame semifinalists. Let's get there. Hall of Fame selection committee, do better.
Absolutely. Look, if Marshawn Lynch isn't a surefire Hall of Famer, then what are we doing?
This is a strong year for wide receivers.
Okay.
In particular.
Who we got?
Okay. So I don't know if I want to run through all the names, but I'll start with the quarterbacks.
You can do it fast.
Quarterbacks.
Just receivers was all I was curious.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll start with receivers because I said it was a strong class. Larry Fitzgerald, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, Hines Ward, who's keep that guy out of the Hall of Fame, and Reggie Wayne.
All right, Fitz and Wayne are definitely Hall of Famers. Other guys should be in the Hall of Very Good.
Steve Smith and Torrey Holt?
Yeah.
Oh, I disagree. I think all four of those guys are Hall of Famers.
I mean, how many years was Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, or who was the third one? It was the name right after. No, it wasn't Reggie Wayne.
Hines Ward.
Fourth? Hines Ward. Yeah.
Hines Ward.
How many years were those guys combined the best receiver in the league?
Well, Steve Smith was, he had some longevity. He was also special teams. Like, he had that component to his game that was very productive. Torrey Holt, I think some of his productivity got lost because he was on that Isaac Bruce. He had Isaac Bruce opposite of him, but I still think he's a Hall of Famer. Anyway, I think, so of these guys, I think Larry, the one thing I'm watching though, if Fitz is first ballot, because you saw T.O. not get on first ballot. You saw Randy Moss not get on first ballot. Are they anti-wide receiver first ballot?
Maybe. Wait, so say that question again. I think I missed it because I read a comment right as you were
first ballot for Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, without question. Yeah, 1,000% yes. Forever yes.
Any other first ballot?
Torrey Holt, but are you trying to tell me that Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, or Hines Ward are more deserving of the Hall of Fame than Marshawn Lynch?
Hines Ward is not. No. More than Marshawn Lynch? No. I'm just saying that I think that of wide receivers that Torrey Holt and Steve Smith should get in eventually. But not Hines Ward.
I don't even know if Torrey Holt was the best receiver on his team.
He wasn't. It was Isaac Bruce.
That's kind of my point.
Okay. It was such a good team. It makes it because they had Marshall Faulk, who's a Hall of Famer, they had Kurt Warner, who's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. If he doesn't get in, I'm not sad. Okay. Quarterbacks though. Any first ballot guys that you see here? Drew Brees, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers. Although
Drew for sure.
Yeah. I think it's Eli's first. I don't think this is Rivers' first ballot. I'm not sure.
They were drafted the same year. Oh, I guess they retired at different times. Okay, because that would make the difference there. Okay.
Drew Brees should get in. You got Jason Witten, who's on the list. You got Frank Gore and Fred Taylor at running backs, which the thing that upsets me more than anything, not that Frank Gore is on here because I think he'll get into the Hall of Fame, but Fred Taylor being on here ahead of Marshawn. That makes no sense.
He's had to have been on the list for a minute, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that would probably be because Frank Gore. See, both those guys, really good backs, but more compilers than maybe dominant.
Okay, but I think with Frank Gore being the number 2 or 3 rushing yards leader in the NFL, like it kind of feels like you got to put him in.
Yeah, I mean, this kind
of
goes
the longevity to compile, to be to be even a top 5 guy. That feels Hall of Fame worthy. Maybe.
It's right on the line for me. That Frank Gore feels a little bit more of the Hall of Very Good.
If you can talk me into taking Curtis Martin out and putting Frank Gore in.
I think Curtis Martin was far more dominant during his prime.
All right. 16,000
outrageous.
yards for Gore. 5-time Pro Bowler. He was a member of the All-Decade team.
And he was,
But he was a Niner, so screw that guy.
Yeah.
Keep him out of the Hall of Fame.
You can go away.
Let Roger Craig
like
in
a
before
quality.
Frank Gore gets in. How about that?
Oh, 1,000% yes. Yeah.
Roger Craig is on the senior committee, or senior finalist this year.
Gosh, how has he not been inducted? That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, so Adam Vinatieri should get in. That's another guy on this list. But Earl did make it as a finalist. So if you're looking at former Seahawks, you got Earl and you got Jari Evans.
Jari Evans was awesome
Really
as an offensive lineman. Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get in.
Well, he better. Again, that's another one of those guys where I'm like, if that guy's not a Hall of Famer, then what are we talking about? Offensive line lives matter too. They do. And, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes for him.
Yeah, he was a 4-time All-Pro and a member of the All-Decade team, so he should get in.
Yeah, but Earl Thomas is a no-brainer. Let's go, people.
The Snail saying Frank Gore was never a top 3 back at any point in his career.
I don't know. There's a couple years there I think you could argue top 3.
Well, he was, again, if you're on the All-Decade team, you were probably among the top 3.
I know, but so to me, there's the Dalton line that they used to talk about on around the NFL all the time, and trying to decide, if guys were upper half of the league or bottom half, and my line for the Hall of Fame in terms of Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good is Tim Brown from the Raiders.
Yeah,
is he a Hall of Famer to you? Because to me, that's a clear definition of Hall of Very Good. He had massive numbers. He played forever.
Yeah,
but he was a very good player.
I got a bit of a soft spot for Tim Brown. I'd put him in.
Okay. You put everybody in. It wouldn't even be all that exclusive.
Yeah, put Chad Johnson in. He needs to go in too.
That's a tough one. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, actually, I think.
All right. But no Torrey Holt. Okay, that's interesting.
It's not that interesting. Torrey Holt was whatever. It doesn't matter.
No. So we've got Rodney Harrison, Earl Thomas, and Darren Woodson. Rodney Harrison, very good. I don't think he was a Hall of Famer, though.
What?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think
how in the God's green earth would you put Torrey Holt into the effing Hall of Fame before Rodney Harrison? What'd you smoke today?
I'd put Darren Woodson in over Rodney Harrison.
I mean, I think all 3 guys deserve it. Yeah, all 3 of those safeties deserve it.
Oh, I think it'll. I don't know. Rodney probably gets in because of his media contributions too. They always love those guys.
Yeah, for sure. But he was a dominant player.
He was good. He was really good.
Real damn good. Won Super Bowls good.
Okay. Anyway, what do you say we get on to Better at Life?
All right, man. Well, my Better at Life is for the Utah Jazz head coach, Will Hardy. And this was something that actually happened a couple weeks ago and saved it and just kind of came around to it here again. But a couple weeks ago, the Jazz were playing the Bulls, and with about 5 minutes and change left, Herter, one of their players, he gets knocked down, loses his balance near mid-court, and pops back up and goes over to the bench. And, there's a little bit of scuffling, because it was a hard foul and all that. But right after he pops up and goes to the bench, in a very, very close game, by the way, every possession matters here as we're going down the stretch of this game. And the ball boys are the guys that come out with the mops. Say 2 of them run out immediately and are wiping up the sweat on the floor like they do every time a guy falls down because, safety. It's important to not have a wet basketball court when guys are, cutting the way that they do out there. And the referee, Mark Davis, he apparently decided it was taking too damn long. And even though it was completely normal, there's nothing about what I watch on the video that makes me go, yeah, they're lollygagging around to give the Jazz more time for some reason or another that wouldn't really be advantageous to them anyways. He gets pissed off and he calls a technical foul on the Jazz because they're at home. It's their ball boys out there wiping up the sweat. He calls a tech on the guys wiping up the sweat on the floor for taking too damn long. Will Hardy, Utah Jazz coach, He loses his mind. He goes over, he's yelling at Mark Davis, and looks at him and looks him straight in the eye and says, "Get the fuck out of here, bro." And then turns around and walks off, which is exactly what needed to be said, because that's insane. Did Mark Davis have money on the Bulls in that game? Because we all know that NBA refs can be corrupt. We found that out years ago with Tim Donaghy or whatever his name was. Hey, unbelievable. The guys who wipe up sweat got a technical foul because he didn't like the way that they were doing their job. But Will Hardy stood up for him. I thought that was a cool move, and dropped an F-bomb on the ref that clearly deserved it. Will Hardy, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Very sneaky by you. You wanted to use this as a do better. You didn't have a better at life, and so you slid it in. So you did
guilty as charged.
Double do better.
All the way around. Yep, all the way around. You're 100% right, 0% wrong. I forgot that I didn't have a better at life as we were getting ready to go live, and I was like going through my save stories. I was like, "Ooh, here we go. We'll turn this into a do better or a better at life from a do better." This is magic.
Sorry I had to call you out about it, but
no, it's great. I think everybody will appreciate that because it's 100% true, 0% wrong.
Well, my better at life this week, Adam, is for a group that I know that you'll appreciate. It is for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, because they are upping their efforts to help reverse the Burmese python's attempts to take over some of Florida's natural areas. And one of the cool things that they did is they're trying to find a way that they could actually incentivize this. And so they brought in a business called Inversa. And what they do apparently is they link up, groups that maybe sell snakeskin boots. And Burmese pythons, I don't know if you've ever seen these things, but they're like 14 feet long and weigh 150 pounds. You can probably get like 500 pairs of snakeskin boots out of these massive creatures. And while they are amazing, they don't belong in Florida because they are an invasive species. And I think they don't belong anywhere. They don't belong anywhere.
No.
So one of the things that they've done in 2024, before Inversa was involved, they had the Wildlife Conservation Commission. They removed 343 pythons. Now that they've got the private sector working into this as well, they are up to 1,022 Burmese pythons removed from Florida lands, and an increase of almost 3 times. So for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission and Inversa, how about you guys? Better at life than Skip Bayless.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're doing God's work out there. Get rid of those slithering death machines that are plotting to kill the entire population of Florida at all times. They're terrible. And it's tough to get rid of them, too, because, like, they're basically super beings, right? Like, they've got infrared vision. They climb trees. They have no predators. They'll just choke the life out of you like the Seahawks defense. They're the worst thing crawling around in the marsh. And so it's cool to see that they've upped some of their efforts. I also saw another story just the other day, Brandon, where state of Florida has been teaming up, I think, with the University of Florida to put out robotic rabbits that like mimic like rabbit things to draw in the pythons to get them to get into traps. And so, usually I'm anti-robot and AI and all that, but here's a case. Like, bring it on. I want freaking lasers on their heads. I want them going out and just massacring these stupid pythons that shouldn't exist.
Just like we should come out and massacre the Atlanta Falcons. Dogzilla Monster in chat saying, have we ever shut out teams twice in a row? I don't believe that the Seahawks ever have, especially when you go back and one of the very few teams to do it, and actually a team that did it in the playoffs, was the 1985 Chicago Bears, who shut out the Giants and then the Rams in back-to-back playoff games before winning the Super Bowl that year. So that was one of the more impressive back-to-back shutouts. But in modern times, I don't know if we've seen a whole lot of back-to-back for any team, let alone our Seattle Seahawks. So we got a chance to go out and maybe make some history here for our Seahawks.
I think we're a Kirk Cousins injury away from having that happen. Because do you know who the current backup is? Clinton pointed this out to me earlier today when we did What If.
Oh, gosh. Who is the third string Atlanta Falcons
you won't guess it.
quarterback?
It's Easton freaking Stick.
No way.
So, yeah, if it's Easton Stick out there, back-to-back shutouts in range.
Easton Stick probably could have started for the Vikings last week.
Oh, yeah, the bar's pretty low. So, yeah, he probably could have.
Well, we will be looking forward to it, looking forward again to What If coming up this week. And, we got a fun game to look forward to because it is going to get a whole lot tougher down the stretch and leading up toward the playoffs, Adam.
Yeah, it does pick up after this Falcons game. All the more reason to snuff the life out of the sports life out of this Atlanta franchise, and then they'll be sports dead, and we'll be happy. And going into the final 4 games, needing just one victory to basically secure a spot in the playoffs. It's gonna happen, even with Bijan, who's terrifying, and Algier, who we did mention is also really terrifying. Good as well. Yeah,
maybe not terrifying.
He's pretty darn
really
good.
All right.
He's pretty darn good.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.